Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and 100% battery health is not what it used to be. Every year a new iPhone comes out, and it seems, especially with the last couple of years, battery health is on the decline much faster than before. So I wanted to give you a couple examples, talk about how I charge, and what I think Apple needs to do in the future. Now, as I've mentioned many times before, with battery health, all batteries degrade over time. That's just the nature of batteries. They're electrochemical, and that's just what happens. Many have actually said that Android and other devices don't have this issue, but the reality is they do. They just don't show you how Apple does. So just like a Tesla or another EV, a Porsche or something else, they don't show you the battery degradation, as it would cause concern for many. And this is something I really wish Apple would really hide a little bit deeper. They have taken steps to do that in the recent updates, but battery health overall is something that shouldn't be worried about as much. Also, being that the batteries are electrochemical, what that means is sometimes they can be a little bit different, as I've said, and say you have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. The phone is designed for 5,000 milliamp hours, and it now drops down to 4,500 milliamp hours. That's a battery health degradation, and then it measures that percentage difference. That's exactly what it's doing with your iPhone. It's saying, what was it starting with? What am I at now? And what's the percentage difference? So that's something that just happens over time. Usually you'll go down to 99%. It will start to degrade slowly, drop to 98, and then sort of stop maybe around 97 or 96 and stay there for a very long time. Then eventually it will make it down to 80%. That's usually what happens. That's true of cars. That's true of anything with lithium-ion batteries, or really any type of electrochemical battery at this point. So I wanted to show you my battery health on my current phone, since it dropped pretty fast this time around, but not as fast as the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So with this phone in particular, it's nice that Apple has actually added the ability to actually see directly what we have with battery health as far as our charge cycles or cycle count. And with charge cycles, that's basically a representation of one full charge of your phone. I've talked about this before in depth, but basically one cycle is charged to 100%, drained to 0, and charged back up again. That could be any combination. So one day, maybe you're at 100%, you use 50% of your battery, charge back up to 100%. That's a half a cycle. Do it the same the next day, you've completed one cycle. Now with battery health, like I said, I'm down to 99%. So I went back to look at what point we dropped to 99%. And some people are actually seeing major drops now. So right around the time of iOS 17.4.1's release, I dropped down to 99% at 138 cycles. Some people dropped around 50 cycles. Others still haven't dropped. It just depends on the phone. And sometimes the overall battery capacities are not exactly what Apple specifies them as. It's not an exact science, as it's electrochemical, and sometimes they can be over that specific charge that it was designed for, making the actual drain down a little bit longer for some phones and not for others. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I went back and took a look at this one, and if we go into our cycles here, let's just switch over to dark mode. We don't have the cycle count, but we went down to 99% on this phone around iOS 16.3 Beta 1 on December 14th, 2022, after just 60 cycles. Now it's at 87% with 319 cycles, as you can see in Coconut Battery. So this one actually dropped much faster than any previous iPhone I've had with the 14 Pro Max. The 13 Pro Max is pretty much the last one many people remember as being the best with battery life, battery health, and everything else. So if we go into settings, again, let's switch over here. Within settings, we'll go to battery health and charging, and I'm down to 98%. Now I used each one of these phones for about a year, and this one with 98% has 236 cycles on it. It took pretty much all the way in from September down to August or September again to go down to 99% on this phone. So usually once you drop to 99%, it will drop a little bit faster after that. One more example I wanted to share is my wife's phone. Because she charges every single day the same way and uses the same sort of setup that many of us do with a case on the phone, she has a screen protector, so you're keeping some of that heat in, which is an enemy to battery. You'll see it's down to 86%. Now this is not the latest phone. This is a 14 Pro. And after this 14 Pro has been used for quite some time, again, we're down to 86%. However, That 86% is after 456 cycles. According to Apple, after 500 cycles, you should be around 80%, with the exception of the latest phones. So 80% after 500 cycles is completely normal. She's doing a little bit better than that. So this is great. That's what you can expect from a phone. A couple years will bring you down to 80% typically. Now, other than that, Apple has now switched over with the latest phones, with the 15 Pro Max, and said that it's now capable of 1,000 cycles, bringing you down to 80%. But I don't know if that's going to actually turn out to be true, as many people have had it degrade very fast. So if we go into the cycle count here, let it load, you'll see Apple actually explains some of this as far as the overall cycle count, how it works, how you should charge, and you'll see how one cycle is represented here. So similar to what I said. But again, with the 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, and 15 and 15 Plus, they all should get you about 80% after 1,000 cycles. It does say that's optimum conditions though. Now, Apple has really given us more and more tools every year to help manage battery. Of course, you know about these already. If we go back into settings, of course, we can change this so that we can optimize our battery, put it to an 80% limit, put it to none, clean energy charging, or just have it manage itself altogether. That's typically what I do, and mine took some time to decline, but others declined much faster. So let me show you an example of that. If we go to X or Twitter, and you'll see Shay from Concept Central actually posted, it looks like their launch day 15 Pros finally hitting 99% battery health. I've posted similar things when mine dropped down to 99%, and I said some are much lower already. He asked what mine was at, and I posted the actual screenshot from it. Miguel from iDevice Help posted he's at 96% with 251 cycles. And if you go through this whole thread, there's a ton of people that actually mention that theirs have dropped down a little bit faster than they would expect. In fact, going from 99%, maybe sometimes jumping down to 95%. And some others have actually had theirs decline faster as well. And this is most likely due to Apple not maybe checking the capacity as frequently, or they need to optimize the software. If again, you go through this thread and take a look at what some people say, some people are using 80% charge, some people never let it go below 20%, some are using smaller wattage to charge it, and many have told me they even turn off optimized charging. I typically let it manage itself, but we're all having the same results pretty much no matter what you're setting your battery to. So in here, if you have an 80% limit or none, or you're trying to manage it yourself, everyone seemingly is having pretty much the same experience from what I've seen. So as far as the charger goes, this is what I've been using for a couple of years, what my wife uses as well. And you'll see here, this is a Belkin charger where it has a MagSafe stand here. It's a certified MagSafe charger. And then it has an Apple Watch stand here as well. Place it on here at night, and I go to bed, and then I just leave it alone. That's how I charge, and I find it makes no difference whether you do this or you try and manage your battery yourself. So with that, it seems like we're just getting different results. I've done this the same exact way for multiple years with the iPhone 13s, iPhone 14s, and 15s, and had different results, even though it's the same charger throughout the years, charging the exact same way. So based on that, and my wife uses the exact same charger, and again, has had that battery health and cycle count I showed you before. Now, Apple actually designed the phone to be charged at night. We even have standby mode, like I showed before in different videos, where if you shut the screen off on one of the newer ones with the later updates, you get a standby mode with a nice clock or pictures or whatever you select. So you can just set it on that, look over at your timers and things at night, and then take it off on the morning where it would be at 100%, and it will hold it at 80%. So they designed it to fully manage it itself, but you can manage it if you'd like. However, iOS 16 and iOS 17 seem to have more features and are using more and more power. So things such as stolen device protection, I've seen people say that that's using more power. That's under Face ID and passcode. And if we scroll down, you've got stolen device protection. I'll just turn it back on here. But I've noticed with it turned off sometime around the other day, it really helped with battery life, even though it really shouldn't, because it's using location information when you're moving. But I've got it with me, and maybe it's just doing something in the background it shouldn't, depending on the version you're using. You've got a ton of different features such as Find My, and lots of different features they keep adding to the phone, which ultimately use more power. Widgets can use more power. I've talked about that in battery videos I've done before, and everything, of course, is going to use a little bit more power. And I think iOS 16 and iOS 17 just have so many little features that use things in the background that it's just not optimized like it once was. Now, iOS 18 will hopefully bring many more efficiencies, but we don't really know for sure. And maybe that's why they've just kind of let it go for some time, and they're hoping to really focus on that and fix that as iOS 18 is set to be a huge update. So at this point in time, I think it's just the way it is because of the features, and maybe Apple's using some cheaper batteries or something along those lines. But some people are just seeing it jump down, maybe because every time you reboot your phone or you install an update, it's going to remeasure the overall battery health and compare that. With the latest iPads that are expected in about a week or so, we're expecting battery health to be there as well. Currently, Apple does not include this in their software. For whatever reason, they didn't bring it to older devices, but we should have some sort of battery cycle and battery health monitoring on the iPads. I'm all for this, at least in a little bit, but I don't really like seeing it all the time because it's probably the number one question I get where people are worried about their battery health, when they should change their battery, and much more. So those things, I would personally just ignore it and enjoy using your phone, and your phone will actually let you know when it's time to change your battery. You'll see here where it says battery health normal, which is something they added. I've been asking for years, and they finally put the 99% behind that, just like they did on Mac. And then also it will tell you here, if it's not normal, you need to change your battery, and that will actually alert you. So at that point, I would say just wait until it says that. Unless you really need to get that extra life out of it, I really wouldn't worry about it until you're below 80%. So that's everything with battery health. Hopefully it gets a little bit better in the future, and I thought I'd just bring this up as many people have been asking me, and things have just seemed to be different this time around with the last couple of generations. Let me know your experience in the comments below, and I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.